You're going to showboat, knock down the shot.
For what his value is, it doesn't equate to winning basketball.
When you're talking about the greatest of greats, that's what you have to do. You have to nitpick.
We'll see you in the playoffs. We'll see you in the playoffs.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the TM Up podcast. I'm Jace Eustace, joined, as always, by my partner, my co-host, Jarrett Huff. Jarrett, how's it going, man?
Pretty good. Although I have to say, a little disappointed because we lost a lot of money on future bets this weekend via the Phoenix Suns. And Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh, yeah?
So, yeah.
We'll touch on it. We'll touch on it a little bit, but while you might be losing some betting money, I have been on a hot streak as far as how my predictions have been going. I know if anybody's listening has been following us along on TikToks, I was doing pretty good as far as my second round. Bucks couldn't pull through, but we'll get to that here in a little bit as we get more into this podcast. But I just want to start out, man. We got a Final Four. We got 4 teams left in the NBA playoffs, going from where we started, even just the beginning of the playoffs. We talked about how crazy these playoffs were going to be. They've lived up to the expectations. There has not been a lot of quick series besides obviously the Brooklyn Nets getting swept out in the first round. Besides that, most of these series are going 6-7 games. We had a couple game 7s in the last round. Now we're setting ourselves up. We got conference finals matchups, and I'm super excited. So let's just jump into it, man. We've been starting with the Eastern Conference. Let's continue to start with the Eastern Conference. And we got a matchup. We got my Miami Heat going up against the Boston Celtics, the 1 against the 2 seed. But although it doesn't really seem like it's, just the 2 front-running teams, the Eastern Conference, both these teams definitely deserve to be where they're at. So, Jarrett, Heat, Celtics, how did we get here?
Well, we got here because the Brooklyn Nets did not decide to show up and play in the playoffs this year. It was an easy sweep for the Celtics. And then Celtics took on one of the defending champions, and they put up one of the best series, I think, in the last few years that we've had. Now, unfortunately, Game 7 really didn't follow the trend of great Game 7s.
That's true.
But nonetheless, it showed just how great this Boston Celtics team is, just how much of a 180 they pulled from where they started in this season. It's showing that Jason Tatum is truly one of the best players in this league, and that Boston's bench is full of a ton of role guys that can come in and provide scoring, provide defense, and provide their team opportunities to win. I mean, not many people thought they could stop Giannis the way they did, and although Giannis had statistically a pretty good game,
he had a great series, yeah.
Wasn't a great Game 7, which is crazy to say when he's gained 25 points? Was it 20 boards, something like that?
Yeah, it's just
yeah. But and Grant Williams, was it 7 3-pointers?
Game 7 Grant, man. He was 7 for 9, 27 points. Showed up in Game 7, dude. Game 7 Grant. Oh yeah. My.
And I love the confidence that I saw from him. Like, he was going to take every shot that made sense. And he felt like it was going in. On one of his last threes, he just stared at it and just started walking away as it went in. I mean, it was just something to watch. It's made me a believer in this team finally.
Okay.
And you might not want to hear this, but I mean, they're favored, but I'm going to go along with the favor, which it has burned me many times so far in this postseason.
Yeah.
But just from what I've seen from Boston, I just think they're a more complete team. Miami, now, don't get me wrong, has a lot of great role players, has a really good bench. Problem is the lack of consistency, where the offense is coming from any given night. Hero can light up any team for 30, maybe even 40, but that doesn't happen every night. Duncan Robinson is in and out of the lineup. Jimmy Butler is probably the most consistent offensive weapon, but he's not always going to give you a 40-point game like he was doing in the 2020 finals and earlier in the series. It's just I don't believe as much in Miami's offense. Whereas from Boston, I'm pretty confident that Boston's gonna get a lot from Tatum. And then any guy on any given night, like Horford was showing that for some reason he's not 35 years old. He's he's kind of doing a Benjamin Button thing where he's all of a sudden his vertical is increasing as he gets older because he's dunking on people now, which we've never seen in his 15-year career. I don't know what's going on the Horford side of things, but yeah, he's rewinding the clock. Marcus Smart can knock down some shots when he needs to. And when he's not making some boneheaded turnovers and stuff like that. Apparently Grant Williams knows how to score. We found that out. So I'm super excited for the series, but if you have to give me prediction, if I have to give my predictions, it's going to be the Boston Celtics in 6.
In 6?
In
Oh,
6. I'm sorry.
wow.
I
The
don't mean to disrespect you.
confidence.
And I
The
love Jimmy Butler. He's one of
confidence.
my favorite players, but
Okay. The
I'm going with
confidence
Boston.
for the Boston Celtics to come through in 6, man.
Done doubting them.
Hey, that's fine. I'm just considering you had them losing round 1 to Brooklyn.
And 2.
They have really changed your mind as far you're going with them over the number 1 seed. Hey, I respect that. That's your take. I'm just going to get into kind of what I have to say here. You know, this is the matchup that I wanted. I didn't think it was going to happen. I did obviously predict the Bucks to win in 7. So I was a game off there. Obviously the Celtics, they did what they did in game 7. They came out, they punched them in the mouth, and Milwaukee had no answer for them, and all the credit in the world to them. But this is the matchup I wanted, man. All these teams that have gotten all the hype this whole season, this whole postseason, they're getting knocked out one by one. And Miami is still there just doing what they do, man. They just keep rolling. They keep winning, and they win in different ways. That's just what they do. Yet, you touched on it a little bit. I'm going to get into it a little bit more. The disrespect continues. Miami, the number 1 seed that finished up their last series in 6, is the betting underdog coming into the Eastern Conference Finals. They're plus 145 from what I checked. Mm-hmm. They're plus money for the 1 seed. For the team that they haven't had to face a game 7 yet. Yeah, they dropped a couple games to Philadelphia when Joel came back in Philadelphia. But guess what? They adjusted. They came back firing. They didn't lose another game. Obviously, we know what happened in round 1 against Atlanta. They lost 1 game there. They figured them out. Haven't lost another game. They are nearly unstoppable at home. It's what they do. And you're telling me that in a 7-game series, they're going to get 4 of those 7 games at home if it goes that long. This is going to be absolutely fun. This is going to be 2 of the league's best defenses, and it's going to be such a different series because I don't think we're going to see 115 on the scoreboard. We're not going to see 120s on the scoreboard. Definitely not 125s on the scoreboard. We're going to see some of these games that are going to end up, 92 to 87. We're going to have some of these games. It's going to be fun. It's going to be, and I hope before we ever see, one of these games played, message to the referees, let them play. I want to see defense. Obviously call. I know, but obviously call when, it's egregious, when they're slapping, when there's things like that. But these ticky-tack fouls, these 2 teams are tough. They're physical. They can handle it, and they will respond. You have to let them play the type of basketball. Hey, they both want to play. It's not favoring one or the other. It's going to be 2 teams getting down in the trenches, and who's going to come out the dirtiest is going to come out the winner. And I don't mean dirty as in, trying to hurt anybody or anything like that. I mean going down there and getting those loose balls and making those extra plays. Butler and Tucker, man, they're going to have their hands full with Jason Tatum. As we all know, Miami, that bench runs deep. I mean, you talk about you don't understand the kind of lack, or as you say, the inconsistency of offense for Miami. You don't really know where it's going to come from on a given night. I see that as an advantage because they're going to feed that hot hand. And there's no way. I mean, there might be one game. There's always one game where, the entire team goes cold. Just ask, Phoenix in game 7 we'll touch on a little bit. But, there's always teams where it's just a game's going to not go your way. But Miami's got so many guys that they're going to feed that hot hand, whether it's PJ Tucker hitting down things in the corner, whether we have these random resurgence games of Caleb Martin or Gabe Vincent where they pop up and all of a sudden they're unstoppable scorers. Obviously, Tyler Hero is going to give you what he does. Bam Adebayo, we haven't even touched on him. He's a solid 20 points down in the paint. What he does. Duncan Robinson could light it up at any point. We don't know how much he's playing, but if he's knocking down shots, he's playing in that game. So we'll see how all that goes. And you gave your prediction, and I just want to say, look, I've been on a hot streak in these playoffs. I got 7 out of 8 of the first round series right. My Toronto Raptors, they tried to come back. They did. They were trying to come back from down 3-0. Couldn't do it. Respect. I went 3 out of 4 in the second round, even predicting the correct games on 3 of the 4 of them.
That was insane.
So now the pressure is on for me in the conference finals, and I'm ready for it. after careful thought and consideration, consulting with my team behind me, you know, a lot of late nights, a lot of sleepless nights up thinking about matchups, individual things, you know, I've come to a conclusion. And it's going to be the Miami Heat in 7 games. They are going to win this series. It's going to be pushed to 7, but they are going to win at home in South Beach in game 7. Miami's been almost unbeatable at home this season. They're going to have more time than Boston to get healthy and rest up coming in. I would not be surprised if Miami takes both of the first 2 games in Miami before going to Boston and dropping 1 or possibly 2. It could almost kind of be like a replay basically of what we're seeing. Oh my, excuse me. My Alexa decided to, my Alexa got so excited of things that I was talking about here. But I also think they're going to be more healthy. And I think that Coach Spo has showed that he's going to be able to make the necessary adjustments to beat any team that they're coming into a series in. I am going with Miami. It's been a hell of a run for Boston, and they're going to make it hard for the Heat. It's not going to be an easy series, but in the end, Miami's primed to make their second NBA Finals appearance in the last 3 years. And that's just the way that it's going to be.
I think it's a fair take. I'm really excited to see the series play out. I will admit I'm kind of going to be rooting for the Heat at times just because Jimmy Butler's my guy, will always be my guy. But I still think it's going to be the Celtics. It's not a series I want to bet. I think I'm probably done betting when it comes to these NBA playoffs because any given night I put money on anything, the opposite happens.
You know, it's all right. If you want to tail me in my bets, where we seem to be on a hot streak over here on this
I might have to bet against my own bets.
I'm just saying, you know, if you make a little bit of that money back, you know, I'm hitting on a pretty high percentage over here. I don't in the playoffs, I can't do these game by game bases because I like going the whole series. And so far it's working out so well for me. So
definitely don't do a game by game basis because the Warriors will lose by almost 50. I mean, it's dumb. It's stupid. I hate sports.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Before we move on to the Western Conference, I got to ask you kind of the question here. And it's kind of something that's been going on basically since last night, since the game ended. And so as we know, a lot of people think that Giannis is the best player in the league. I am included in that. I know I think you've said KD you believe is the best player in the NBA as of right now, or unless that's changed since the playoffs.
Okay, so I said this a couple of weeks ago on Twitter.
Okay.
It was early in the Celtics Bucks series.
Mm-hmm.
I've conceded the title over to Giannis. Just from what I saw in the Nets series, KD could really never seem to find his game. And then just Giannis and what it takes to stop him. Seeing it in person is one thing when I got to see him play against the Bulls.
Yeah.
Because the last time I saw Giannis in person, he was a 19-year-old kid, barely getting any rotation minutes. But what it takes to stop that guy, I mean, he's going to go through everybody. And really, if anything, the refs are what can stop him the most if he gets like a charge call, whether it's the correct call or not. That seems to be the only consistent way to stop him.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm willing because he's a skinny Shaq.
Yeah.
He's a skinny Shaq with ball skills.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen a player like Shaq since, and he's the closest thing. So at this point, I'm conceding that Giannis is the best player in the NBA.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. But kind of the way that I was going about this is I'm sure you've seen it because obviously you're in on all the NBA media and things like that are going on. But there is kind of a general discussion that's been kind of going on about how a lot of people think that Giannis is kind of the best player in the NBA. But now that he was knocked out by Boston in Game 7, a lot of people are still coming to defend him. And a lot of people are kind of bringing up, and this isn't me, I know it sounds like me, but people are bringing up LeBron, where it's like, okay, when you have that title, you know, you're the best player in the NBA this time, the standard for, it seems like the last 10 years, the last decade or so that we've held LeBron to is not even just make the NBA Finals. It's you have to win the NBA Finals. Like, otherwise the criticism just comes down on you. But now we're starting to see where it's like Giannis, a lot of people consider him the best player in the NBA, but now we're seeing a lot of people defend Giannis. Just saying like, you know, but you still need help. And he was missing his second best player. And it's almost like we changed the bar when it was LeBron dominating for as long as he did, where now it's not LeBron sitting on that throne. So now we're like bringing it back to a human level, and it's like more of like, oh, what can you expect from him?
I think that my theory on why that is, it's because I think the people that were praising LeBron at the time, even before, like probably around the time the Miami Heat first formed, the Heatles,
Yeah.
uh, they were basically kind of praising LeBron as like like the greatest player of all time before he even achieved winning an NBA championship. And in a way, I think that they were attempting to lower the bar for the conversations of what it takes to be the GOAT, clearly, because you're crowning a player that's never won a championship as the greatest player of all time. So once LeBron did start to move up the ladder in terms of winning championships, but then also losing again in the finals, the people that had to hear like, oh, like LeBron's the greatest player of all time when he really hadn't had a resume to kind of support that necessarily. I think that's what has led to the bar being raised for LeBron on reaching that point of being like the best. To where people are like, no, he keeps like, there's all these inconsistencies with his career where we've seen other guys like not really have these moments of blunders or losing in the finals. So it's kind of like both sides are trying to like pull the bar down, and then the other side's trying to pull the bar up, and it's just
so you think it's two different discussions. So you think that the bar was lowered when you're talking about the GOAT discussion, not talking about what just the best player in the NBA should be able to accomplish.
Well,
at that given time.
Are you saying that people were doubting LeBron was the best player,
active
best player
so
in the NBA?
I am saying that I'm not even bringing up GOAT conversation in anything. I'm talking about when LeBron was actively the best player in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
And we can argue his prime was he probably held that title longer than anybody else has ever held that singular title. I mean, his prime lasted
quite possibly, yes,
12 years, however you want to map it out. But the dude went to 8 straight finals in the middle of his career, obviously 4 with Miami and then 4 with Cleveland. I'm basically saying that when LeBron, basically when he would go to the NBA finals and he'd lose either to the Spurs, losing to the Warriors, whoever he dropped the series to, we basically heard he can't be the best player in the NBA. When you're the best player in the NBA, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter that Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving were both hurt. You should still win the NBA finals because you're the best player in the league. And what I'm saying is I'm seeing it change where now that Giannis is more widely considered as the best player in the NBA. Obviously, a lot of people still think KD or whatever. Now that Giannis has been knocked out in round 2 in a tough fought series against a better team, now it's okay. You know, he didn't have his second best player. He still put up his numbers. He still won a championship last year. But when it came to LeBron, it was, I don't care. You're the best player in the NBA. Go win an NBA finals. So I'm taking the GOAT side out of it. That's not even part of the discussion for me. I'm talking when you're the right now best player in the NBA, you should win the finals. And I felt like for the last 10 years or so, when that was LeBron's, that was the narrative, is you have to win the NBA finals.
Well, then in that case, I think the difference is Giannis doesn't have Dwayne Wade or Chris Bosh or Kyrie Irving or Kevin Love on his team. I mean, his best player through how many games did he end up playing? Bulls so he played 12 playoff games.
Mm-hmm.
10 of those were without Chris Middleton, his second best player, the only other all-star on the roster, although personally, I think Drew Holiday should have made it over Fred VanVleet.
Yeah.
And I think how the rest of the season played out, I would be vindicated in that. But going into a finals, and that Boston Celtics team is really good. You got an all NBA talent in Jason Tatum, MVP candidate, and Jaylen Brown, who is an all-star level player. You got Marcus Smart, the defensive player of the year. Al Horford, who had a fantastic series where he looked like the all-star level player, and at times better than any moment we've ever seen in Al Horford's career. Al Horford, I believe, is a 2 to 3 time all-stars, and a lot of people forget that. I think because it's probably been a while since he's been on the Hawks, and he's just not a sexy all-star name.
Yeah, those Hawks teams.
Yeah, so that was a really good Celtics team, and Giannis was playing shorthanded. So I think that's why a lot of people are coming to his defense. I also think, and it just comes with it's stupid NBA like conversations and storylines and stuff like that, where Giannis just really isn't a controversial superstar.
He's not.
He's pretty like he barely
Yeah.
even complains about foul
Oh, I
calls
know.
that
And
don't go his
that's
way. And
that's kind of my point
I think he
in a
just
sense.
has a lot more respect from the players in the league and from unless you're James Harden and from the fans just in general, the fans of the media, because Giannis is just more of an authentic star and has gone about things the right way in terms of his career. Like he stayed in Milwaukee, even though people were telling him, get out, it's a small market, you're never going to win there. He won a championship with the only other guy that's been there as long as him, and Chris Middleton, which is super rare nowadays. And that's hopefully someday I'd like to see stuff like that come back, but who knows? Um, I think it's because just the way Giannis has handled his career versus how LeBron handled his career starting out. That's just why those conversations are different.
I
Whether it's fair or not, that's
Yeah,
just why
I see what you're saying, and kind of the last point I'll get on this because I'm sure we could spend all day on it. But I'm even going back to when LeBron was dragging Mo Williams and Ildrinas Ilgauskas, to the NBA Finals back before he even left to go to Miami. Where it's I'm just saying it seems like the NBA media kind of picks who they want to protect and who they want to hold accountable for the same thing. Like even in the NBA Finals that LeBron lost, where he didn't have like Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love was injured the entire time, and he almost won game one by putting up 50 points. If J.R. Smith would have known the score, obviously they probably still don't go on to win that series, but he almost stole game one just single handedly. Where it's like we kind of just, I think LeBron, the standard we hold is so high because he's the only one to ever really come in and threaten the GOAT in Michael Jordan, where it's like, well, you should have done this. You should have done that. You should have done that. And now that we're seeing kind of the next best player in the NBA currently, I just think, I think it's a nice opportunity to step back and kind of see how that bar isn't necessarily lowered, but it's changed just because we hold LeBron to a certain standard and a lot of people think that he doesn't hang up to that, but I just think it continues to raise the bar with no matter what he does. But I'm sure we can spend forever on this. We got to move on into the Eastern Conference. And I was so excited in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, I picked the Dallas Mavericks in 7. A lot of people thought I was crazy. I'm sure I got some eye rolls. I'm sure everybody's like, it's Phoenix. Of course, they're going to roll Dallas. Well, I was right and they were wrong, and I'm going to gloat just a little bit.
That hurts, man.
I'm sorry. But we got our matchup. We got our Warriors. We got Mavs. So how did we get here in the Western Conference, and what does this series look like for you?
Well, we got here because the Dallas Mavericks wanted it more.
There you go.
That was clear as day, especially in the early minutes of game one. The Suns, game 7, the early minutes of the first quarter in game 7. The Suns looked frazzled. You saw it on their faces when they do close cuts to Chris Paul, Devin Booker. I believe Chris Paul and Devin Booker started out 0 for 10. Like it was crazy what was happening. Oh, yeah. And early on, it seemed like, okay, so Dallas has an early 10-point lead. Suns kind of closed it a little bit, and then Dallas opened it up to like 15. And then by the end of the quarter, it was 20. And you're like, oh my God, I don't think the Suns have it in them to get back because Dallas was just hitting shots. Their role guys looked confident. Luka was unstoppable to where the Suns defense didn't know what to do at times. DeAndre Ayton couldn't get it going. Bridges couldn't get it going. And defensively, he wasn't really making an impact on Luka. It was just, you just saw it, that Dallas Mavericks team wanted more because no one believed they'd be here. No one thought they'd get this far. Oh, yeah. And here they are in a game 7 against the team that just won 64 games. One of the 25 best teams record-wise of all time. And here they are. Oh, yeah. With the Suns on their back, like a turtle you just flipped over on the side of the road. And it was a massacre. It was bloody. It was unfair.
It was unfair.
Now, with that being said, and this is going to go into my prediction.
Okay.
I mean, this has been the most wide open NBA conference finals on either side in a long time. Even the conference semifinals. Yeah. For a lot of the matchups, I thought, who's going to come out of this? Like, you don't know. To where just from the conference semifinals alone, I saw a lot of what I saw in every team except really I would say Miami, aside from the lack of their consistency offensively on any given night from players. Most of the teams I saw things that I didn't like that makes me like at this moment I couldn't predict with like even 60% certainty of that team's going to win the NBA finals for like the first time ever, which that is what I love. I don't want to be able to predict an accurate finalist that I believe 100%. So like I see the deficiencies in what the Warriors have. I see it in the Celtics. I see it in the Heat. And then when it comes to the Mavericks, even though they've defied my expectations all the way, I still don't think they're a great basketball team. I think they still rely too heavily on Luka, who's shown that that's not really an issue because he's going to put the team on his back and continue to rack up all-time playoff performances on a game-to-game basis.
Oh, yeah.
But just the guys behind him, the way the roster is, if you're able to stop Dallas's shooting, kind of take out the role players and maybe just let Luka cook, I think they're a very beatable team. It's the role guys that open it up for Luka. And it's the role guys that when Luka's being targeted, Luka's just getting them the ball and they're hitting the shots, which is crazy. I don't believe in this Mavericks team, even though I've seen stuff with the Warriors where they'll try to shoot themselves, like when they were down 50 points against the Grizzlies. And even before that, they just kind of kept trying to shoot like, hey, if we just keep shooting, we're going to get our way back into this game. And that's kind of, I think, one of their weaknesses. But I don't think the Mavericks just have what it takes. I'm willing to bet that the Mavericks lose in 5 to the Warriors. I can't. I've been wrong every time against the Mavericks, but I still can't bring myself to believe.
You had them losing to Utah.
I did have them losing to Utah.
So
I had them losing to the Suns, and I have them losing to the Warriors. Okay. After the Porzingis trade, I thought this team got worse, which clearly not the case. But I still don't see it.
Wow.
I still don't see it. I don't see a Dallas Mavericks team in the NBA Finals.
I just have to point out. So you picked against Boston in round 1.
Mm-hmm.
And over the last 2 series, they've proved you wrong, obviously. And now you're taking them over Miami.
Well, and
you picked against
from what I've seen,
Dallas.
Yes.
And over the last 2 series, taking out the team with the best record in the NBA, you're now picking against them.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just making sure that's straight. And you mentioned that trade a little just for a second. And I just got to point out, I want to apologize on behalf of the TMO podcast because I joined in on you with this and laughing at Davis Bertans. Davis is having a good postseason. I don't think he has shot a 2-pointer yet. I don't think he's ever shot a 2-pointer in the playoffs yet. Just threes. That's all they need from him because they're opening up the floor as much as they possibly can for Luka. Mm-hmm. But that all being said, Warriors versus Mavericks. People laughed at my Dallas in 7 pick. And look where we're at now. Look where we're at now. Dallas is better than we all thought going into these playoffs. Looks, Phoenix, they were a great front-running team, but as soon as Luka's back was against the wall, the Suns couldn't get that knockout punch. I said Luka is going to take off these playoffs. I said that before the playoffs. We were going to see an ascension of Luka Doncic, and I think we're seeing that. And right before our very eyes, there he goes, up, and away, and he's just getting started, man. Game 7 was an embarrassment. The Suns played cocky. They played like they already won the series, and now they're heading to Cancun. So they're going to have a lot of fun with that. Moving forward, this is going to be fun. I worry a little bit about the consistency of both the Warriors and the Mavericks. We saw, obviously, the Warriors dropped, what was it, game 4 that they got blown out, or 5?
Stop talking about it, please.
Yeah, so that happened. We want to talk about inconsistencies. That did happen where they lost to a jawless Memphis Grizzlies team. They can both have real clunkers as teams. They can both go dry as shooting. But after consulting, with my team, like I said earlier before, ran the numbers, came through on all the analytics, everything came together, and we settled on my pick here for the Western Conference Finals. And if people did not like my Mavericks in 7 pick last round, they might really hate my pick this time because Dallas is winning this series in 6 games at home. They are winning it in 6. Luka is going to the NBA Finals. We are going to see a Dallas-Miami rematch in the NBA Finals in 2022. Book it, because it's going to be so fun. Luka is on a trajectory to the sun. Like, I don't even care.
He surpassed the sun.
He did surpass the Suns.
Unintended.
Exactly. You're 100% right. And you know what? You can laugh about this Dallas team. You can their makeup, their roster, what they rely on, what they do. It's not traditional. It's weird. But I'll tell you one thing that's severely underrated in these playoffs. Jason Kidd has them playing great defense.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so underrated because we talk about Luka, we talk about usage rate, we talk about the shots. They're only shooting threes. They're blah, blah, blah. Their big men aren't even big men. They're playing out in the perimeter. They're different. That's whatever. They have played lockdown defense. Like, they have improved game after game on the defensive end. Shout out to Jason Kidd, because I didn't think he had it in him. But after losing those first couple games where it looked really bad, this series was going to get out of hand, they locked in. And they locked in, started on the defensive end, started turning turnovers into points on the other end. Basically, for Dallas to lose, all like 4 or 5 of their 3-point shooting role players all have to go cold on one night. And I don't know, Spencer Dinwiddie, all of a sudden, they haven't been relying on him, scored 30 points in Game 7. You're hoping he can do that. You got Jalen Brunson. Davis Bertans has become a sniper out of nowhere. I'm sorry that we laughed at him. All of a sudden, Maxi Kleba is out there shooting threes. Reggie Bullock's out there shooting threes. You got Dorian Finney-Smith out there shooting threes. I know they don't sound like big names, but I think this is a year where a team like that, with the inconsistency of the Warriors, Jordan Poole hasn't looked as, indestructible as he did kind of in that first round of the playoffs. I think we're going to see the Mavs in the NBA Finals carried by Luka. He's going to earn that nickname of Luka Legend.
Now, what I think you're underrating a little bit is one of the things that has helped this Mavericks team survive through these playoffs is their ability to play small ball and really screw things up for their opponents. I mean, we saw Rudy Gobert essentially should have become unplayable, but in a sense, he's way too valuable and potentially impactful to a game to take out. Like you see team like when the Grizzlies would take out Steven Adams, or the Warriors erase Kevin Looney from the lineup. They're going against a team that took the book on small ball that the Celtics or Miami Heat arguably wrote, and then wrote their own edition, and it was a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah.
Perfect. They're going against that team. They're going against the core that perfected small ball. There's not really an impactful player on this Warriors team that is going to be forced out of the lineup by this team. No. Dallas doesn't have a really big player that's going to be able to screw things up, because really the Warriors can't afford to play a traditional center, because we've seen some weird lineups with Kuminga at the 5.
Does Dallas.
I know, but I'm saying Dallas doesn't have somebody that's going to kind of screw it up, because the Warriors this team only excels at playing small ball instead of a traditional 5. And that's going to make things a little interesting for Dallas defensively and offensively. And I think it's going to be a fun series if you just kind of want to watch the Warriors blow a team out from time to time. Now, I think there'll be a close game here and there, but I think the Warriors are going to come through on that.
In 6. Book it. Absolutely book it. I'm riding this Dallas wave.
Warriors in 5.
Riding this Dallas wave to the NBA Finals. It's happening.
So this is going to be happening for our inner podcast debate. This is going to be fun for us because we have completely different finals predicted.
Yes, we do.
I'm seeing a Celtics Warriors, which correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, that's a snooze.
I feel like that might have been, what was it, the 1975 NBA Finals?
That's a snooze fest. That's what
I'll have to look that up. I feel like the Celtics were in the finals in 1975.
That sounds like a snooze fest, man. It doesn't sound fun to me. It's not Warriors.
Okay, no one except Luka Doncic. It's
like,
is a fun player to watch.
Yeah, but do I want to see the Celtics win their like 100th NBA Finals, or the Warriors win their like fourth in the last 10 years? Or do I want to see Miami against Luka? Like, that's what I want to see.
I'm not saying this is the finals I want to see because I've seen enough Warriors finals to last a lifetime. Although I wouldn't mind seeing the Celtics in the finals because I always think it's great when an NBA legacy franchise is in the finals. Boston hasn't been in a while.
Yeah, not if it's
since
Boston.
2010.
Yeah, I know.
I'm fine with it. Also, it'd be kind of interesting to see because the Lakers and Celtics are going back and forth with who has the most championships. Kind of be interesting to see the Celtics get the leg back up over their rival from across the country.
It's not happening.
I don't know, man. I'm sorry. I don't think we're gonna see Heat Mavericks Part 3. I don't think it's happening.
Well, I think we will. And those are our predictions for the conference finals. Now it's time for our favorite part of the TMO podcast. And of course, that is our final segment. And that is always tee 'em up. So Jarrett, a lot of NBA playoffs games going on. I'm getting a little too excited. Who's getting your technical foul this week?
Well, ironically, or maybe not, it's someone who will not be in the playoffs going forward. In fact, he hasn't been in the playoffs for several weeks. I'm teeing up Patrick Beverley.
Oh, boy.
Now,
let's hear it.
There's been plenty of players throughout the last couple of weeks of the NBA and into the playoffs who have criticized Ben Simmons. Basically, any point in any stance you have on it is a fair stance.
It's valid at this point, yeah.
Kyrie Irving. He's kind of a weird guy. So, really anything you say, you might be right too. James Harden, enough said. Yep. He's going to be someone's $250 million problem for the next 4 to 5 years.
I'm glad he's
Philly,
not mine.
For your sake, I hope it's not you.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron James, because everyone loves to hate LeBron James, or everyone loves to love him. So what I don't understand, though, is why Patrick Beverley and a lot of people on Twitter are coming after Chris Paul as hard as they are. Personally, I think Chris Paul plays the game, aside from some flops here and there, or selling calls, which I think every player does, plays the game the right way. He's one of the last real point guards in the game, and that's something that the NBA is going to sorely miss when his time is up. Very few players come close to that kind of style of point guard anymore, which, as we've all seen, has changed the Suns around completely. Well, Pat Beverley did his rounds on ESPN this morning, dragging this man through the mud after he hasn't seen an NBA court in 2 to 3 weeks. Now, typically, I like Pat Bev. He's from Chicago. He plays tough. He plays hard. Probably a guy I'd want on my team. But come on, man. You could have won 6 times in your series against the Grizzlies, and they sent you to Cancun in 5, 6. It was 6. It's been so long ago, Pat Beverley. I don't even remember exactly how many games it took for the Grizzlies to beat you. But he's out here saying that, no one goes to bed early to face the Suns. No one's worried about playing the Suns. Steph Curry, you go to bed at 8. But if you're going to play Chris Paul, the traffic cone, because he can't guard anybody, you don't worry about that.
You did call him a cone, yeah.
Chris Paul is one of the greatest point men the NBA has ever seen.
True. Point guard.
He's probably going to go down in NBA history. Quite possibly he's the greatest player never to win an NBA championship, which I'm not ready to write the book on Chris Paul, but if he doesn't ever win one, which the window is closing, unfortunately,
it's over.
He's going to be that greatest player. Patrick Beverley. Are you still salty that the Houston Rockets wanted Chris Paul that bad that they had to send your ass to the second best team in LA? Well, I mean, fair. Clippers were better then, but we know who runs LA. Come on.
Oh man,
Pat Beverley, get over it, man. You weren't even the main piece of that trade, so quit pretending like you were. I'm done with it. Like, you got to respect Chris Paul. He is the reason why that Suns team made it as far as they did. Sure, he didn't play great, but they wouldn't have been there if he didn't play the way he's played all season. And they definitely wouldn't have been there We all remember his first round. He had some amazing games. He broke an NBA record for most made shots without a miss in the NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
So I'm done with the Chris Paul slander. We praise a guy when he's at his peak, and then the second he screws up, which may I remind you, he was not the only one that had a bad game in Game 7 because DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker didn't show up.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, we'll get to that.
So we're making fun of this man at 37, who's otherwise up until the last 3 nights has played some of the best basketball we've seen any 37-year-old in NBA history play. I'm done with it. Team up Pat Bev. And you know what? I'm teaming you up too, Twitter, if you want to say some shit about Chris Paul.
For a second there, I thought you said you're teeing me up. I was like, wait a minute.
No.
I'm on the record point guard. All right.
Jace, you are safe from the shots I'm shooting. I am
all respecting Chris Paul over here. I'll tell you what, though, as much as I respect my Chris Paul, I agree with you. I have never been a Pat Beverly fan. I think he's been dirty, and I'm glad to see that you've kind of come over to this side a little bit as far as all the talk that he's been doing. My technical foul is revolving kind of the same team. My technical foul is Devin Booker.
Oh,
technical foul to Devin Booker. How dare you? How dare you think that you're someone that you're not? And Devin Booker, you're a great basketball player. You're fantastic. You can put up points. Let's not forget what your career was before Chris Paul came here. Let's not forget that you've been in the league for, 6, 7 years. You're not.
I think it's year 7.
You're not a rookie. You've been here. You've been around the block. What was said about you before Chris Paul came just 2 years ago was, yeah, he can score. He could put up 70 points, 60 points. That's what he does. But he can't lead a team. He had someone come to his team and lead a team. And how dare you in Game 5, when you're going up 3-2 against a 4 seed, Luka Doncic, act the way that you acted in that game. You're laughing, you're smiling, you're falling on the ground after a non-foul, talking about it's the Luka special. I'm pretending to be hurt, so it's going to be a flagrant foul. How dare you, after the whistle, Luka's trying to hand the ball off to a ref, and you're trying to steal it after the whistle because you know Luka's better than you. And he's going to be better than you for a very long time. Let's just go over your stats after that game. After, we know what Luka did. He responded. He put up huge numbers and led his team to the next round of the playoffs, something that you did not do. And especially, we could say what we want about Chris Paul, where, he's a great player. Maybe the age played a factor. Maybe he ran out of steam a little bit. Maybe he needed you younger guys to pick up a game and get him to the next round. Give him a few more days off. Did you respond? Let's see. You had 30 points in games 6 and 7 combined. You shot 0% from the 3-point line in those 2 games. Good. You were 0 for 8. You were 9 for 31 from the field in those 2 games. You were trash. Trash. When your team needed you most, your response was nothing. Nada. You disappeared. And after front running and showboating and laughing and smiling as the Luka special and he can't touch me, look what happened. And I hope this is a lesson to Devin Booker, because you could be a front runner all you want. Now that you got, a little credit, you want to talk about, what do people got to do to get into the MVP conversation? And, how about, lead your team to the second round? Lead your team to the third round. Get to a conference finals again. Maybe not blow a 2-0 lead in the NBA finals like you did last year. You blew a 2-0 lead in this series. Like Devin Booker, I was a fan. And then I saw the way that you behave where you're trying to kick someone down. And what Lucas said, everybody's acting tough when you're up. He said that in that video that went viral after Game 5. Everybody's acting tough when they're up. But guess what? You had one more game to win and 2 shots to do it, and you responded with 30 points in those 2 games combined. You averaged 26 on the season. You came up small, D-Book. And I would not be teeing you up for having 2 bad games if you wouldn't have acted the way that you acted in Game 5. So technical foul to Devin Booker, because to me, this is a bad look. And I think up until now, he was kind of seen as one of these younger up-and-coming guys. He's very well liked around the league. He's got the, kind of Kobe Mamba mentality guy. But now this should change a little bit because you talk the talk, but you couldn't back it up. And when Chris Paul wasn't having absolutely historic nights, your team came up short. And you're the young guy. You're supposed to be able to show up and push them when they need a little push. I guess you can't do it without Chris Paul. That's just the way that I see Devin Booker right now.
I think the series kind of market corrected where Devin Booker is in the hierarchy of NBA stars, where instead of being on like that kind of that Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic level, he's much closer to like the Zach LaVine, Devin Booker kind of area. Where now, don't get me wrong, he probably still deserves like a first All NBA team selection and like where he finished in an MVP voting, because what he did to contribute to the Suns regular season was palpable. But in terms of just how great he is as a player, he's not as high as kind of where he's been touted recently.
There's levels to this shit. All right, there's levels to it. Like, and you got to go through what you got to go through. And guess what? In that series, Luka took a step forward. You didn't. Like, that was your chance. That was your chance. Like, you had 2 shots to do it.
I saw this tweet last night. Tell me what you think. What's more pointless? Devin Booker's 70-point night or the Suns' 64-win season?
70-point night. 70-point night is the way that
I might have chuckled a little when I read that.
I don't know. Devin Booker, to me, leading up to this, he was the baby faced. He still looks very young. He still is very young. I think he's like 25. I think he still
looks 19.
Yeah, he's a young kid. He could put up points, but it's just like now you've shown when you get pushed back, like this is the only time we've seen him in the playoffs is these last 2 years, right? Last year, up until the NBA Finals, they never really got pushed. Like no one really pushed back and threatened them in the series. Obviously, they went up 2-0. They relaxed against Milwaukee. Giannis came back, won 4 straight games, won the NBA Finals. This time, he's starting to get a little too big for his britches, goes up 2-0 against Luka. Oh, we got this. They pushed back. He had 2 games to close him out, and he couldn't do it. Like, I'm sorry, but to me, like going off of what you said, this isn't as much on Chris Paul as you look at me. I know we look at Chris Paul as, oh, he never win a ring. He lost another 2-0 lead. All this. This is on Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. Who knows what's going on with him? It's internal. If you ask Monty Williams, he's played 17 minutes in Game 7. We don't know what's going on with him. So I think he's probably out the door. They didn't pick up his option. He's an incoming free agent. I mean, he's
that excites me as someone that needs a rim protector for their team.
Yeah, you'd be paying a lot for it. But man, technical foul to Devin Booker for the way he acted and then responded in that series. Because I don't know, man. It's going to take a little bit of work, but to me, he's changed his image a little bit, and I'm not a fan because you got to back it up. If you're going to do all that talking, you're going to do all that laughing, you're going to do all that flopping, back it up. Win one game. Now, even though DeAndre Ayton's future is still up in the air, from what I've heard, Chris Paul was dealing with some sort of hamstring injury, which I think would check out because he just hasn't seemed the same player over the last few games. It seems to be always unfortunately what he's dealing with.
But he said he will be back.
Yeah.
It is not the end of his story. And
that's fine.
Just as a Chris Paul fan, I'm happy to hear that whatever version of the point guard that we get after this.
No. Oh, man. That's all we have this week for the TMO podcast. Thank you guys all for joining us. Want to be sure to follow along on all of our social media platforms for some fun NBA content throughout the week. So thank you guys all for listening. We'll be sure to catch you guys next time.
Shout out to our TikTok following. You guys are really doing the most.
Let's do it.